Welcome back. So, today we're digging into a massive new release from Alibaba's team, and this one might just change the game for open source AI. It's their first open-weight model in their flagship lineup, and believe me, it is making some serious waves.
Okay, let's just dive right in. We are talking about the Qwen 3.5 series. This is a brand new flagship model from Alibaba, and it's making some huge claims about being a super powerful all-purpose system that's really designed for the real world.
So that's the big question, right? We're going to put it to the test. In this explainer, we're going way beyond the official stats on paper. We've run our own real-world experiments to give you the final verdict on whether this really is the new model to beat.
So what exactly is Qwen 3.5? Well, first, let's just take a second to appreciate the sheer scale of what we're dealing with here.
It's a massive 397 billion parameter model. Now, I know that sounds huge, but it's what's called a mixture of experts model. The easiest way to think about it is like a team of specialists. It only activates the most relevant experts for any given task, which is about 17 billion parameters, and that's the real key to its incredible efficiency.
And that efficiency? It's on full display here. It's reportedly 19 times faster than its predecessor, Qwen 3 Max, and it supports an absolutely incredible 201 languages and dialects.
Under the hood, it's powered by a whole new architecture. Now, this gets a little nerdy, but it basically combines two key ideas: hybrid linear attention to process information super efficiently, and that sparse mixture of experts, the team of specialists we just talked about. The simple takeaway is that this thing is built from the ground up to be a powerful do-it-all system that can handle really complex, real-world tasks.
So how does it perform against the industry titans? Well, the benchmark numbers are where Qwen 3.5 really starts to look like a serious contender. Let's get into the data.
If you look at this table on key benchmarks like MMLU Pro, it's posting a very, very strong score. But what's really important is that it reportedly beats Claude Opus 4.5 on browser tasks, and you can see it right there on the SWE bench row. It even surpasses Gemini 3 Pro on that coding test. It's not a clean sweep, though. It does still trail Gemini on the terminal bench.
You know, beyond the raw performance, what makes this a huge deal for developers is just how accessible it is. It's released under the Apache 2.0 license, which is fantastic for commercial use. You've also got a massive 1 million token context window, and it's available through all kinds of channels, from free weights to APIs on platforms like OpenRotor.
Okay, the specs are impressive, but can it actually deliver when the rubber meets the road? Let's move on to the tests and see how this thing builds, from those polished demos to our own hands-on experiments.
The official demos are honestly seriously slick. One shows the model just autonomously generating a live, interactive 3D map of Beijing and Shanghai, complete with production-ready UI. Another one shows the smaller 8 billion parameter version creating a fully functional Super Mario game from scratch. I mean, it's very impressive stuff.
One demo, in particular, a high-quality 3D car racing game, looked almost too good to be true. The quality was so high, it just seemed like a real stretch for a single-shot generation. So, you know us, we had to see if we could replicate it ourselves.
And the result was, well, it was functional. We did get a car game, but it was, and I'm quoting here, super basic compared to the polished demo. This really just highlights that gap that can exist between a curated promo and what you might get from a single prompt in the real world.
We saw a pretty similar story when we asked it to build a macOS clone in a browser. The first attempt looked great, perfect SVG icons, a sharp toolbar, but none of the apps actually worked. The second try was better, Safari was functional, but other apps were still just static images. The verdict? Impressive for costing just a few cents for sure, but it shows the limitations of the smaller tiered versions. Now, here's a fascinating insight that came from a landing page test we ran. The output was fast and pretty decent, but its design language, the typography, the animations, was almost a perfect mimic of Google's Gemini. And this really points to a wider, and frankly, kind of controversial trend of open-source labs training their models on the output of proprietary ones.
But where the model truly shines and kind of redeems itself is in multimodal reasoning. We gave it this image of toy cars and simply asked for a count. It reasoned through the image, identified all the cars, and came back with the correct answer, 28, a perfect score.
And that impressive performance just kept on going in other complex single-shot tasks. It created a functional 3D room designer where the spatial recognition was perfect, and even a farming simulation game that mimicked Stardew Valley, complete with harvesting and inventory logic, all from a single prompt.
So after putting it through this whole gauntlet, what's our final verdict? Has Qwen 3.5 truly earned the crown as the new king of open source models? Let's break it down.
All right, let's weigh the pros and cons. On the pro side, its speed, its price, and that open Apache 2.0 license are just incredibly hard to beat. Its logic, especially in vision and tool use, is very, very strong. But on the cons side, its code generation can be inconsistent, and it doesn't yet have that rock-solid stability of the top proprietary models like GPT-4 or Claude.
So our final takeaway is this. Qwen 3.5 is a fantastic local model and a powerful, super cost-effective alternative in the open source space. For a lot of tasks, it's an absolute game changer. But it's not quite ready to completely dethrone the top-tier closed models for every single use case, especially where you need absolute mission-critical stability.
And that really leaves us with a final thought. Qwen 3.5 may not be the undisputed king today, but what it proves is that the gap between open and closed-source AI is shrinking at an incredible pace. It's a powerful contender, which just makes you wonder, for how long will the old kings be able to keep their crowns? Thanks for watching.